On a crisp Saturday morning, James woke up to the quiet of the day ahead, dreaming of enjoying a peaceful cup of tea on his porch, maybe spending some time tending to his garden if the mood struck him. But as he stepped outside, mug in hand, his eyes widened in disbelief. A full construction crew was busy at work, pounding away in his backyard, erecting what appeared to be a massive storage building. It was set up a good 6 feet past his property line. The sound of hammers, the clatter of power drills, and the pungent smell of fresh lumber hit him like a slap in the face. This wasn't a bad dream. This was a full-on nightmare, with the added bonus of power tools. Fuming, James hurried out in his slippers, his heart pounding in his chest. Standing across the fence, with her hands planted firmly on her hips, was Carol, the president of the Homeowners Association, looking smug as ever. She was acting as if she were overseeing the construction of a monument to her own power. His blood boiled, but before he could lose his cool, he spotted one of the workers, casually sipping on a soda. "Why are you building this on my land?" James demanded, his voice sharp. The worker shrugged, unbothered by the confrontation. "Talk to Carol. We just do what we're told." James clenched his fists. Arguing with the hired crew wouldn't get him anywhere. Carol was the one pulling the strings, and she was about to face the consequences. Later that afternoon, after the crew took their lunch break, James stormed over to Carol, who barely looked up from her clipboard. Her tone was dripping with condescension. "The HOA decided that the vacant lot next to your property is now community space," she explained. "We're building a shared storage shed for neighborhood tools." James blinked in disbelief. "That's my land. Inside my fence, with my property markers right there," he shot back. Carol chuckled lightly, her laugh tight with superiority. "We all have to make sacrifices for the greater good." James could feel his temper rising, but he forced himself to stay calm. This wasn't a fight to win by shouting. It was a chess match, and he was ready to outsmart her. That night, James transformed his kitchen into a strategy war room. He spread out all his property documents, maps, and HOA agreements. The evidence was undeniable. The shed was built 6 feet onto his land, and Carol had no legal claim to it. He could have called a lawyer or simply torn the structure down, but a far more devious plan began to form in his mind. If Carol wanted to play dirty, he'd show her how the game was really played. She thought she was taking something from him? Fine. She'd just given him a free rental unit, and he would use it to his advantage. By midnight, James had crafted the perfect rental listing. He snapped a few artistic photos of the shed beneath the moonlit sky, giving it a cozy, suburban charm. His description highlighted the brand-new construction and its secure location, twisting the truth just enough to make it sound like an irresistible deal. When he hit post, a grin spread across his face. He just turned her mistake into his profit. The following morning, his phone started blowing up with inquiries. Affordable storage units were in high demand, and by noon, James had already scheduled showing. Mr. Roberts, a retired schoolteacher, came by, needing space for his gardening tools. He was sold on the spot, handing over a cash deposit. Just like that, the illegal structure on his property was now generating passive income. The real fun began when Carol saw Mr. Roberts unloading his gardening supplies into the shed. Her face went bright red as she marched over, demanding to know what was going on. James remained calm, flashing her the deed to the property and the signed rental contract. "It's on my land, Carol," he said coolly. "I can rent it to whoever I want." Her mouth opened and closed, but she had no retort. After a tense moment, she threatened to contact the HOA lawyer, but James just chuckled as she stormed off in a huff. Carol wasn't one to give up easily. By the afternoon, James noticed her huddling with a few other board members, whispering behind her hand. Later that evening, a letter arrived, stamped with HOA letterhead, threatening him with a fine for the unauthorized structure and demanding that he stop renting it. James laughed so hard he nearly spilled his coffee. Did Carol really think a letter from the HOA could intimidate him? He quickly drafted a response, attaching his property deed, city zoning codes, and a letter telling the HOA to take their complaint and shove it. He hand-delivered it to their office, where Carol was pretending to sort paperwork. With a cheerful wave, he left, enjoying the silence as his message sank in. 2 days later, an orange notice appeared on the shed, declaring it non-compliant and demanding its removal. James didn't even blink. He called the city's zoning department, and within an hour, an inspector named Greg showed up. After reviewing the documents, Greg grinned. "This shed is perfectly legal on your property," he said, shaking his head. "Whoever's making trouble here needs to brush up on their zoning codes." As they talked, Carol stormed up, spouting off about HOA rules and neighborhood standards. Greg calmly explained the law to her, and the color drained from her face as she realized she had no case. Furious, she stormed off, nearly tripping in her haste. But Carol wasn't finished. She filed anonymous complaints, alleging James was running an illegal business. The city dismissed them immediately, confirming his rental was fully legitimate. She even went so far as to throw trash around the shed, claiming it was a health hazard. James countered by installing motion sensor cameras and posting the footage online. The videos of Carol and her henchmen trespassing went viral, turning her into the laughingstock of the neighborhood. Once the laughing started, it didn't stop. Neighbors who had once feared Carol now mocked her openly. The tide had turned. Then, one quiet evening, Mark, a lesser-known HOA board member, slipped James a USB drive. "You didn't get this from me," he whispered before disappearing. Inside were emails exposing Carol's long-running scheme to seize private properties for community projects without permission. The emails contained phrases like "they'll never know" and "just build it," revealing the depths of her corruption. James wasted no time. He filed a formal complaint with the city and state HOA board, attaching the damning emails and Carol's forged notices. He didn't gloat, he waited. And as the investigation unfolded, the fallout for Carol was swift and severe. The city discovered her other violations, including several unpermitted structures in public spaces. Notices started popping up all over the neighborhood, branding the HOA as incompetent. In a last-ditch effort, Carol called an emergency meeting trying to paint James as the villain. But when he handed out copies of her emails, the room went silent. An elderly neighbor, Mr. Stevens, stood up and demanded Carol's removal. Mark confessed to his part in her schemes, sealing her fate. In a landslide vote, Carol was ousted as HOA president, her authority shattered. But the punishment didn't stop there. The city slapped her with hefty fines for her unauthorized projects, forcing her to sell off her assets just to stay afloat. In a moment of pure irony, she approached James, begging to rent the shed. Savoring the moment, James demanded 3 months rent up front, plus a hefty deposit. Her signature on the contract was a testament to her defeat. Every month, Carol trudged to James's porch, handing over the rent. Neighbors watched, some smirking as James hosted casual get-togethers on payment days, amplifying her humiliation. In the end, Carol moved out. Her departure was marked by a silent moving truck, her legacy of chaos left behind. James, on the other hand, stood tall. The neighborhood had flourished under new leadership, and the shed, once a symbol of Carol's arrogance, had become a symbol of resilience. At the annual community fair, James was presented with a Neighborhood Hero award, a golden hammer engraved with his name. The crowd cheered as he held it aloft. Sipping his iced tea on his porch, James smiled, the shed's fairy lights flickering in the breeze. Carol had tried to destroy him, but in the end, she'd built the foundation of her own defeat. James had won, not with force, but with cleverness, patience, and the strength of a community that refused to bow to tyranny.